Why? Why is it in your car?
That might be one of those, I dropped it in the parking lot, but I'm not going to say I dropped it in the parking lot. Somebody stole it out of my car.
You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax. HIPAA help is on the way.
Welcome to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast. My name is David Sims of HIPAA for MSPs, and joining me is Donna Grindle of Cardin.
That's right. Cardin, your information, privacy, and security advisors.
I like it.
Yeah. Well, you know, when we're busy doing privacy and security and compliance. I'd originally thought, well, you know, we can get into some OSHA and some of the other compliance requirements and bring in other people. I'm too busy. I'm too busy to do that. So we're going to now just be Cardin so that people don't call me and ask me about coding compliance. And
they may call you and ask you about audio equipment, though.
Yeah, that is part of my Google alerts. I have to remove Harman Kardon a lot. But anyway, so now we are information, privacy, and security advisors, because that's actually what we do. So, and we just stop messing around. It's just Cardin. That's what people call us, or they call us Cardon.
I guess I'd be the information, privacy, and security protectors.
There you go.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we got a lot going on in this one, though.
My goodness, I know. Yeah, so as it always happens, we are going down one path of what show to do, and then all of a sudden, something pops up in our radar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, boom, something new.
Yeah, so Donna sends me a message, and here's what we're doing tomorrow. But we have a settlement, the first settlement of 2018 that came out, so we're going to dive into that because it's juicy.
There's a lot, you know, and we see this as two things. One is learn from others' mistakes, and also it provides guidance, you know, that thing where people say, we don't get enough guidance. All you got to do is read these things. They're telling you clearly.
Or just listen to us and you won't have to read anything.
That's true that.
So before we dive into that, though, we have a couple of housekeeping items to take care of. One is finding out where you're going to be here coming up, and I have some boot camp information, so stay tuned.
Yeah, big boot camp news. So real quick, when this comes out is actually about the day I'm speaking at the ASC Joint Conference, Georgia and South Carolina, here in Atlanta. I'm looking forward to that. And then February 22nd, the Hall Booth Sterling Seacrest Partners sponsored HIPAA with the Experts Breakfast Seminar. Then February 28th, March 1st, 7th, and 8th is when I'm teaching a cybersecurity officer course live for Format approved. And if you want to join me on that course where we learn about using the NIST CSF in conjunction with HIPAA requirements, go to the website because you can get a nice little discount if you say Grindle 20. Then the Georgia Access Management Association. That one's interesting. I'm talking with them on March 16th. That's a whole new thing. I didn't even know about that organization. So I'm going to do some stuff with them on March 16th. And Buckhead. Then going to Newport Beach, April 22nd through the 25th, and I booked June in Dalton, Georgia with North Georgia Medical Management, in Newport Beach, California, as the JAWS Society Annual Conference.
Nice.
We're still working on adding some more stuff in. We're just getting dates worked out, so interesting. But now let's talk about the boot camp, because this is the exciting part.
Yeah, boot camp. So we put out some feelers for the boot camp virtual edition, and you're doing it online, kind of webinar-ish type style. Man, we had a lot of people say, I am very interested. So, so we have a plan.
We're trying to have a plan.
We were planning the plan.
Yeah. If you're up for being a guinea pig, bring it on.
Yeah. So for the first time, we're going virtual and maybe viral too. Who knows? But so the format is going to be done in, I think we're still trying to figure some of this minor stuff out, but it's probably going to be a 3 to 4 hour online sessions for a 2 week period, 2 days, 1 week, 2 days the next week. Correct?
Yeah, we may make it 3 days one week and 2 days another.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out how much we can cram in. So
we're trying to work out so it's not too, because 4 hours is a long time.
Yeah. So the dates, put it on your calendar, will so far be March 14 and 15, and then 21 and 22.
That's right.
March 14, 15, 21, and 22.
Now,
so
here's the thing everybody wants to know. What's it going to cost me?
What's it going to cost? So we have an early bird special. So if you get in before the end of February, you can get in at $997.
Yeah, now there's a deal. And it covers up to 3 people in your organization.
Right. So that's
we're big fans of the honor system, and we're asking for that.
Yeah. So that's a big difference, because before it's always been per attendee. So now we're actually giving you up to 3 attendees per organization for that one price. So, dude, you can't beat that anywhere.
No.
Nobody else I know of does that. If you happen to sign up after February 28th, it jumps up to the regular price of $12.97. So definitely want to get in there early. Also, if you want to sign up, you will have to go to thehippabootcamp.com, and we'll have all kind of information there to register and pay online and get signed up. And then from there, we'll be in touch with you about the webinar platform and all that good stuff. It's going to be great.
Yeah, and we're trying to make sure we include the one-on-one planning session and all of the parts that we got into the live one. So that's been a bit of a juggle, and but I'm excited. So go to helpmewithhippa.com/bootcamp.
Mm-hmm.
Get more information. You can certainly reach out to us in all the different ways that people talk to us. For more information, we're looking forward to it. Hope you join us.
Yep. And just to answer the question before it comes up, yes, we will record it. And yes, you will have access to the recordings for a limited period of time. Oh, also the seating is limited too. So
we can't manage all those one-on-ones and stuff like that. And so we want it to be where people can feel comfortable asking questions and try to still maintain the interactive part, which I think is so important because everybody learns from each other.
Right. So it's got to be a small group. It can't be can't have a lot of people attend at one time because of so much interaction that we do, and like Donna said, the one-on-one. So we will cut it off pretty early. So you definitely want to sign up and get in. Otherwise, you have to wait till the next one.
And we don't know when, don't we?
Yeah, we don't know when that's going to be yet, but you'll have to wait till the next one. So if you think you're interested in it, then certainly go to thehippabootcamp.com, because we were the first and the best. No poking at anybody. So, all right. So let's get into the big juicy settlement so far in 2018.
I know. It's 5 breaches equals 1 big settlement. Now that's and it's a doozy. So $3.5 million check and a 2-year corrective action plan. That is definitely Consuela money.
Yeah. And this goes back to incidents that happened in 2012. So there again, we're still dealing with the backlog here.
Yeah. I mean, so a lot of this is, well, what you would say it's old news, but it's new news because of the settlement that they've reached. And one would hope that this was, you could say these breaches don't really happen anymore, but that's not true. All you have to do is read the news recently, and you'll hear that these things are still a problem. So, yes, this is a big organization, so that's why it's $3.5 million, because it's a pretty big network of, they do chronic kidney failure, dialysis, the kidney treatments and stuff like that. So they have a huge network of locations as part of the company that is the Fresenius Medical Care North America. How do you say that, David?
I say Fresenius. I mean, we have 2 of them around here in this little small town.
Really?
Yeah.
And you weren't even on the list of the 5 breaches, and who knows what they've had since then.
I do no work for them. Nor do
I am not involved.
I have no knowledge or affiliation.
They're one of these organizations that provide that corporate support to the individual covered entities. So they do the medical records. And this one's always interesting. They create and disseminate HIPAA policies and procedures and investigate the circumstances of each breach that they are reported, that the covered entities report. Mm-hmm. And, there's a lot more organizations like this now that do like the management parts. And we're working with some of these covered entities that have the management too. Some of them are pretty cool to work with. And then others, I'm like, can you give us the HIPAA policies? And apparently that's a scrambling effort because they're still building their management routines, I guess. I don't know. We'll just leave it there. We'll just say nothing. Ask them that question if you're going to have a management company is all I can say. But
it's on the agenda.
Yeah. Of the massive number of, clearly large number of facilities they had, in 2012, they had 5 different breaches. 5. And none of them were over 500 patients.
That's good.
In fact, I mean, you add it together and you're over 500. You'd have to add them multiple together to get there. So let's go through what really happened here in each of these different areas, just so that you can get a grasp of how many things went wrong in a brief period of time. Because this is between February 23rd, 2012, and the June 18th, 2012. 5 different things happened. And the first one was in Jacksonville, Florida. And there were 2 desktop computers stolen during a break-in of the facility that had 200 patients on it. So here's another part of that discussion about encrypting desktop computers. Granted, in 2012, we had bigger problems with encryption than we do now. But after, we had the one where the guy called because he had bought a computer from and wanted the encryption key to be able to get in, and no one even knew the computer wasn't there anymore. So definitely encryption is key there. You wouldn't think that much about that. That probably didn't create the trigger. But then they also had, in April 2012, they had a USB drive stolen from an employee car, obviously not encrypted because they had to report it, and had 245 patients on it. But here's the thing. It was parked in the parking lot of their office when it was taken out of the car. So all you had to do was take it into work, and it's a USB drive. Why is it in your car?
That might be one of those, I dropped it in the parking lot, but I'm not going to say I dropped it in the parking lot. Somebody stole it out of my car.
Yeah, I just lost it, and I'm going to say it was stolen, and here's where it was. I don't know, but
I erased it and put my kids' pictures on it.
But still, I mean, why would it? Don't do that. Don't take anything out of the office unless it's encrypted, first of all. And if by chance you do, then certainly don't just leave it in the car anywhere, but much less in the parking lot of the office. So that one it's near Mobile, Alabama. That happened. So that's 445 patients between those two. Then we have Arizona case near Phoenix that is, this one was even more interesting. An anonymous report on their compliance line came in on June 18th, 2012. And so they get this report on the compliance line that says a hard drive from a desktop computer not being used anymore was removed on April 6th. It had 35 patients on it. Now, the thing was, June, and they're getting an anonymous tip in April. So it's like somebody used to have that computer on their desk, and they know that a hard drive was removed out of it that had 35 patients on it. And they're getting an anonymous tip on the tip line in June because the employee notified their manager in April, but the manager did nothing about it.
Not so anonymous anymore.
No, really. You gotta wonder that, never mind. But anyway, so there you have, that would get my attention, even though it's 35 patients. So we're just now getting to 500 patients.
Somebody was sitting there going, "Well, they won't listen to me. They'll listen to this."
So now we've got 35 to add to our 445. So we're still not over 500. Then we got Augusta, Georgia. in June 16th. So they had a lot happening in June, right there in the middle of June. An unencrypted laptop was stolen from an employee car parked at their home overnight.
And we see this so many times.
Yeah. So, but to make that even worse, it's an unencrypted laptop. It only had 10 patients on it. So again, we're almost at 500. But in the bag with the laptop was a list of passwords.
You gotta be kidding me.
Yeah. I don't know which one's worse. The 10 patients, that's no big deal compared to the list of passwords. And, but this is why, like the story we often reference, the laptop that came into your office and it was coated in sticky notes, taped down with URLs and passwords. So
I'm waiting on a settlement where somebody didn't lose the device. They just lost their password book.
Yeah. It's like when you see the password keeper.
Yeah.
Whenever you see those at Christmas time, it's the password keeper.
No.
Really? Help me out here. But I love that Ellen does a bit on her show. Ellen DeGeneres did a bit on her show when she saw those. That is a locked box. It's a password keeper. And it's a hilarious bit on YouTube. Anyway, and then they have Blue Island, Illinois. I did not know there was a Blue Island, Illinois until now. Turns out it's near Chicago. On or around, and I always like it, on or around June 17th or 18th, somewhere in there, 3 desktop computers and 1 encrypted laptop were stolen from the facility.
In other words, it was over a weekend.
Yeah. And the encrypted laptop, okay, they're doing here, they're saying if it moves encrypted, that's great. But one of the desktop computers that was stolen and was not encrypted had 31 patients on it. Mm-hmm. Back to, none of our desktops have PHI on them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there you go. So we just topped 500 patients when you add them all together. But here's the thing is they did that reporting thing where you all under 500, you don't have to report until the end of February of the following year. So they reported them all in January of 2013, all on the same day.
Oh, yeah. Let's not get all of our red flags out at one time.
I know. They would not have necessarily been red flags if we had done them all along. And, that's something we'll get into a little bit more. But so they reported them in January. In July, mid-July 2013, OCR said, oh, by the way, we're opening an investigation on all 5 of these. Ooh. So you, management company, are going to have 5 investigations going on at the same time. I know. There is no way. I mean, I know helping people go through investigations, it's not an easy task. And, it's certainly something that creates a lot of stress for them. So having that in mind, we have all of these investigations going on, and they actually, at the end of their investigation, pointed out 7 problems that they found.
Okay. 7. This is where we learn.
Well, the first 2 are always the same.
I know. It's always you did not conduct a accurate and thorough risk analysis.
Potential risk and vulnerabilities to confidentiality, integrity, and availability.
Yeah, I think, just every time you see a settlement, just know that's going to be the first line.
Except for the ones where, somebody called somebody and said something stupid. So those are different. But they don't do an accurate and thorough SRA of the potential risks and vulnerabilities to the CIA of the EPHI.
So it doesn't say they didn't do one at all. They just didn't do one correctly.
It just says they failed to conduct an accurate and thorough risk analysis. It doesn't say whether they never did one or if they did an inadequate one. It just says they failed to conduct an accurate and thorough one. So it wasn't necessarily clear on what they had. My guess is all of them had a little bit of something, but they weren't, most of the time what we see is that, they've done a spreadsheet or they filled out a form or, something like that, answered a questionnaire, and at no point did they actually identify where their PHI is or what threats and vulnerabilities they have or evaluate any of those. All they did is say, am I doing the HIPAA stuff? Oh, yeah, I am. and that's it. Or somebody says, do you have antivirus? Yeah, we're good. Do you have backup? We're good. We're doing HIPAA. Then the second one, all the locations had impermissibly disclosed PHI because all of these resulted in unauthorized access. So every one of those made a violation. And then they drill down into each individual case. So Jacksonville and the Blue Island Group did not implement policies and procedures to safeguard facilities and equipment from unauthorized access, tampering, and theft. Tampering's important.
That's, I mean, if you got a management group and they're giving out policies and procedures to everybody else, how can you not have them?
Well, but another point that we generally make, when you have a ton of, you've got locations all over the place, you can't have a blanket facility security policy and procedure because each location is going to need different things dealt with. Mm-hmm. The security of a location in downtown Jacksonville versus the security of one in rural Alabama, two different worlds, So same thing. So they didn't have policies and procedures. They did not implement policy and procedures to safeguard their facilities from access, tampering, and theft, which all of those matter. A lot of people think of the physical security is all about theft. It is not. It is about access and tampering as well. In the Mobile, the Alabama case, they did not implement PMP that governed the receipt and removal of hardware and electronic media that contain EPHI into and out of a facility and the movement of those items within the facility. So, that's the one about the list of passwords in the bag and the unencrypted laptop. Mm. And then in Mobile and Augusta, they didn't do an encryption plan. They didn't have a plan. They didn't say what they were going to do. Addressable, we don't have to do it. Mm-hmm. No, we have to evaluate and write something down. Then the Phoenix one didn't have policies and procedures to address security incidents. Hello. Mm-hmm. How many times have we said you need an incident response plan? Not just a backup and disaster recovery and that. You got to have a plan. And then Augusta failed to implement policies and procedures that specify the proper functions to be performed, the manner in which those functions are being performed, and the physical attributes of the surroundings of a specific workstation or class of workstation that can access EPHI. So again, this is the one where they had the list of passwords in the bag. Mm-hmm. So they didn't say you can't store this in the car and all that kind of stuff. So there's the 7 problems that they identified in investigating 5 breaches across 5 different locations. And these 7 problems, many of those, obviously, when they say all locations did this, did not have an adequate SRA, well, then that's a systematic problem.
Yep.
So then we have to go, and this is always telling, is what the director of OCR's quote is. Mm-hmm. So I'll let you hit that quote. You always you like what Roger's quotes are.
I like Roger.
He's hit a good one here.
So he says, and I quote, "The number of breaches involving a variety of locations and vulnerabilities highlights why there is no substitute for an enterprise-wide risk analysis for a covered entity. Covered entities must take a thorough look at their internal policies and procedures to ensure they are protecting their patients' health information in accordance with the law."
Yeah, I've noticed that. He's been saying he always ends in accordance with the law.
Yeah, in other words, I ain't making this crap up, people.
Oh, and it's the law. It's the law. It's the law. I'm not, I'm a lawyer enforcing the law, and it's the law.
Yeah.
And,
because people don't think about that when you say, you don't have a risk analysis where you're breaking the law. And they're like, what? No, I'm not.
Yeah. You're at a speakeasy during Prohibition is what you are. So, there's several things that we should learn from it. And, clearly he's making a statement. here about doing a risk analysis, which is not the first time we've heard it, but it is saying there is no substitute for it. None.
Right. But you want to make a really good point here. And I'm not going to steal your thunder, but it's probably a very good idea what you're about to give us a tip on.
Well, we always have this. This was, my first thing when I read this. I'm like, people are always saying, when do I have to report this when they have a breach that involves less than 500? So I tell them the law says you got until the end of the year. So if it happens in, February, you've got until the end of next February. But I highly recommend that once you have everything resolved, you go ahead and do the report now, because you certainly don't want to have multiple reports, do them all at the same time, and that potentially raise a red flag.
Yeah. By the way, as we record this, the February deadline is approaching.
Really? So you already may be doing this to yourself, but maybe next year, let's not do it.
Yeah.
It just makes sense. It's kind of like, I'm going to file 5 years of tax returns and I'm going to file them all at the same time late.
Yeah. Yeah, because these breaches were very small.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, having them all come in at the same time had to raise a flag.
Yeah, they're still developing these tools. You got to remember, OCR didn't really have this enforcement requirement until, 2013, 2009 is when it started, but to really bring in these breaches they started with, hey, people got to tell us this, how are we going to do it? We got to publish it on, so they just threw those things in there as quickly as they could. And, anything with United States government is massive. So, it's turning the Titanic is what
in a bathtub.
It's what it's like. So it takes a while, and they've been building in these systems that would alert them to these things. But at that time, they didn't exist. So they wouldn't have even noticed it had it not been all grouped together at the same time, probably.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, I'm not saying, but I'm saying.
That is a business decision.
That's right. It is your business decision. However, if it were my business, I'd be thinking about it this way.
So our next little tip here is rah, rah, rah.
Or Sarah.
Yeah.
Risk analysis. I mean, come on. What? And the problem is that people, and like in this case, I would assume that all 5 of them had done something. They just hadn't done a proper one. And there's where the problem lies, is that now people will call us up and ask us to do one. We do these things, and the number of people that say to us, no one's ever asked me this many questions. Or, wow, this is a lot harder to answer than I thought. And,
we didn't have to do that last year.
And the IT people are like, well, I don't need to give them a report. They just trust me. Yeah, okay. Anyway, I would like for you to tell me our inventory, we just ask the IT company what the inventory is whenever we need to know. No, that's not what we're looking for. So we need to know if one's been sold to Malaysia. It's in Hong Kong now, and somebody's trying to get into it. So it's the things that get down to, where is your PHI? How does it live, breathe, and move around the office? It's just like our constant concern of, we don't have any PHI on our desktops. Everything's on the server. And it's very rare that we ever find a case that's. I don't know that I've ever found one that could honestly say that. There's a USB drive or a jump drive or a spreadsheet or a letter to a patient. There's something somewhere, a scanned image. That's the one that you always catch.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd see that a lot, because, they'll have a cloud-based EMR, but they'll still scan documents to the desktop. And sometimes they upload them into the EMR, they don't delete them, or whatever the case might be. Or sometimes they have a a NAS device, a network attached storage device, and there's tons of data on it, and it copies itself like back to the desktops or something, like syncing. There's just so many different ways this could go wrong.
Like somebody could put 30 patients on a USB drive, a little jump drive, and leave it in their car.
Mm-hmm.
These things happen, but I think that we can only explain so much about a proper security risk analysis.
Right.
And if all you're doing is running some programs and filling out a spreadsheet and then you're done, you're not doing a proper one.
No. I mean, the fun part of it is finding out all the possible ways things can go wrong. I enjoy that part of it.
I know. Our threat catalog keeps growing. People are like, why do I have to worry about this? So that you can say you did. All right. Then next thing is encryption does matter on desktops. I mean, we just talked about that in our 6 cybersecurity lessons in the news episode, which just came out last week.
Yeah. So we used to say encrypt it, if it moves, encrypt it. But now I think we're just kind of saying just encrypt it, everything.
If you're not going to encrypt it, you have to make sure that you secure it in another manner.
Yep. Yeah.
And there is where people, that never leaves the office, so I don't have to worry about it. Yeah. Wait till it does.
But to give you a hint, I mean, if you're buying computers or if you have something that's fairly new, they have this thing what's called a TPM module. So if you're buying new computers, you might want to ask if it has this. But it gives the computer the ability to boot up and not have you enter in that encryption key during the boot up process. So there again, security is not convenient, but that does add a level of convenience to it. However, it also bypasses a little bit of the security, sorta, as well. So there's kind of a trade-off, but just know that if you have somebody that's, just arguing about the whole, I have to enter in the encryption key during the boot up and it's, 24 characters long or whatever, they do have some ways to kind of deal with that.
I'm a fan of the TPM.
Yeah, me too. I like TP.
You just... So, yeah, that encryption thing, we'll just kind of leave it at the TPM thing. But
just encrypt it.
There was a very interesting conversation that we had just yesterday on your HIPAA for MSP's office hours call.
Oh, yeah.
That was talking about, the MSPs, your IT companies, your managed service providers, they need to have a plan where they work with you when they take a machine out of your office to somewhere else.
Right. Yeah, they should. I mean, that's part of, moving that media or that data around. Mm-hmm. If your IT company is taking that computer back to their office, then that's transmitting.
Yeah, it's in transit. And so the MSP needs to lock down exactly how they're going to have the chain of custody, how they're going to make sure that it doesn't get stolen out of the car. Does anybody know if this thing's encrypted or not? All of these things need to be documented and managed and not just assumed. So it was a great conversation I thought that we had about, the different ways that everybody's trying to make sure they do the right thing, because down to, can I let them get some gas and go in the store and pay for it?
I know. It's crazy. I mean, we used to have a policy that we just didn't bring any of that data back. So if you had a laptop or a desktop, the technician had to work on it at the location. They couldn't bring it back. It just wasn't an option. But we, as it went on, we found out that was kind of becoming not reasonable and appropriate. So we had to make some adjustments. But even then, it's like when you pick it up, you come straight back to the office. You don't stop anywhere. You don't, do whatever. But I've kind of gotten a little, I guess you could say lax on the stopping part. If you have to stop, then, just make sure it's somewhere you can see the car. You're only going to be in the store for a minute. Don't stop and do your grocery shopping and all that kind of stuff. But still, yeah, if I've got a tech that's going on site to get something and I know that's going to happen because we make them call us and tell us that they're bringing something back, I'm nervous. I'm like meeting them in the parking lot when they drive up. Let's get that thing in here quick.
Yeah, you certainly don't want them going to another client site. That's for sure.
No.
Yeah. So, but those are kinds of things that you should be worrying about. If your IT company takes one, you should be asking what's going to happen here and how do I know you're going to take care of it. So, But it does matter on desktops. It's not something that addressable means you can go naked. And then the next piece is the note about the tampering and access that was mentioned in the facilities control. We've talked about that whole concept before, that you have to have physical security requirements. And what was the case in Atlanta where a cleaning company had people were signing on as temporary workers for a couple of weeks. They would go into an office. Now, the cleaning company had no idea this was going on because it was temp workers. And they would take a USB drive in there with them on the first day, find a computer where they could get down in there and stick that thing in with a keylogger in it, let it run for 2 weeks. On their last day there, they'd take that thing out and take it with them. You wouldn't see any traffic. The only thing you would know is that device is there. And if no one pays attention, which often they don't, then that thing's sitting there the whole time. So it's those kinds of things that you've got to consider when you're thinking about your facility security. And often, again, our one of my favorite things to do is to do those physical security tests when no one knows you.
Right.
Yeah. And I go in and I have a polo shirt on and khakis, and I put my messenger computer bag over my shoulder and look at my phone. I can go anywhere. And everybody said, well, I thought you were with IT.
Yeah. If you look like you know what you're doing and where you're going, then nobody says anything.
You just look up and smile at somebody, look back down at your phone and keep going. I was all over the place when I do that. And so we know that. And they're like, well, I thought you were IT. That's the point. They intend to trick you. I'm trying to trick you too. Everybody's mad because I'm tricking them. And that's the point, So you've got to worry about the tampering part and the unauthorized access just as much as theft. Well, you have physical security. Well, yeah, we got the security system over here and everybody has a badge to get in. Yeah, it's the ones that are inside that worry me. Where are your visitors and how do you control those? And, I like seeing that, when I go into places now and they know me, they're like, get your visitor pass. You can't go back there. I'm very proud. But overall, most people don't think about those things. And I remember going to a surgery group. They were on like the 5th or 6th floor of a big medical building, So everybody's like, I'm good. I don't have to worry about my physical security too much. Everybody comes to this door, and we got this door locked right here that they have to buzz to let them in. Okay, well, let me walk through here. Now, no one was there, so I couldn't play the trick game, but I walk through, and I find in the back office, where all the doctor's offices and everybody's offices are, and they got this one little short hallway, and it has the room with all the server computers kind of stacked up. Well, those are our old systems. We still got those. And this one over here, this is where the new one is. And then I see a doorway. And I open the door and go out it. And I'm standing at the elevator.
Oh, man.
And I turn around and I open the door and go right back in.
It wasn't even locked?
No. Well, that's only employees use that.
Oh, okay.
It's not labeled or anything. No one goes in it. Again, that's the point. And you could walk in that door and be back there in the back, for hours, or walk right out with equipment, just yank it out of the wall. And then I turn around and come back down the wall, and they have a wiring closet, and the door's propped open. And I'm looking at like, what is this big chunk of things? Well, that this one was fun. Our sound system died for our hold music, and we found this really old stereo thing that we could put in here and it would work. So it's too big to fit in the closet, so we just kind of prop it open and let it sit right there so we can plug it in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if, let's say, I'm angry about whatever, and I come walking down this hall, I could just reach over here, grab a big bunch of wires, and yank just as hard as I can. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to do some damage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that'll happen.
Or just have a 3-year-old run through there.
Climb up on something. But still, you've got to worry about those kind of elements in the tampering and all of those things. So when you're doing a walkthrough, it's important to make people that work there see things differently, have them participate in the walkthrough, because it will make them see things differently just by doing it.
Yeah, and so we're training.
Yeah. Train.
Dun, dun, dun.
But if you train people to know that security isn't convenient, anything that seems inconvenient, you should stop and say, hey, this is about security. Maybe I should deal with it. So certainly the USB stolen from the car, parked at the office, laptop stolen from the car with the passwords in the bag because it was inconvenient to not have them with me on paper. The reporting of a missing drive and the manager doing nothing about it, that one is...
Yeah. If you don't say anything, it'll go away.
Be very, very quiet. So, but at least the employee was trying to do the right thing and reported it on the anonymous tip line. And that's why we started having an anonymous tip line now that you, for very little money, a 3-digit annual fee, a very low 3-digit annual fee.
I don't care about the digits. I just want to know where the comma is.
They ain't one, brother. But anyway, you post an 800 number, and your staff, your patients, your vendors, anybody that has a concern or they see something or whatever, they call and leave a message, and then we will report it to you. We'll do the follow-up. We're part of that in between. And clearly something did, finally happen when an employee had an opportunity to say, hey, I'm concerned about this thing. So
that's a good idea. I'd rather have them call you than call the OCR.
Yeah, we can say, hey, did you know so-and-so is doing such and such? So we got that. And the cap, of course, that's the 2-year thing. And that's where the meat is, which says you got to conduct a risk analysis. We know that.
No.
You got to develop and implement a risk management plan. We
Step
know 2. That. Ironically, this is all the kind of stuff we talked about in HIPAA Made Easy episode. That's things that make you go, CNC Music Factory, and it came to mind. So I will not sing. That's what my brother does. I didn't get those jeans. You
got the breeches instead.
I know I did. Develop an encryption report. That one was very interesting. Revise your policies and procedures on device and media controls, facility access, and develop an enhanced privacy and security awareness training program. And there's some very specific things that they put in the cap that I don't necessarily recall ever reading before when I read these, like on the enhanced term on the training program.
Yeah.
And they said clearly that they would be adding to their existing mandatory training program will be augmented to include new things that they put, those kind of things. But then on the encryption report, I thought this was really interesting, is the encryption report, instead of just saying you've got to tell us what your encryption plan is, it says your encryption report must include the total number of covered entity devices and equipment, including but not limited to desktop computers, laptop computers, tablets, mobile phones, USB devices, medical equipment that can be used to access, store, download, or transmit the EPHI of the data at the equipment. So you've got everything. They talk about where is it living to access, store, download, or transmit. If it can be used for any of those, then you need to have it on your encryption report. And then they want to know, as of the date of the report, how much has been encrypted and give me evidence that it has been.
Wow.
Yeah. So they're getting very, very specific now on these corrective action plans. So even before we would say these things, corrective action plans aren't fun. Now they're taking it even further and saying, look, if you're on one of these plans, you're going to do very specific things, and we're not going to allow you to, split hairs with it. So,
wow.
So there you go, buddy.
Interesting stuff. Some a lot of the same, and some a little different.
Yeah, more detail, I think, is, because this is the first big one that's been under Severino. So
yeah,
I like the details that are in it. I'm going to go back and read the one from December and the details of the corrective action plan, see if I see the same amount.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a different scenario than this one. So,
well, I don't know that we've ever seen that information about the encryption reports. That was good, and I'm still not sure what enhanced privacy and security awareness training is, but I want to know.
Well, they always just said you have to add the policies and procedures. You have to do training on your updated policies and procedures.
Mm-hmm.
Would be like a required thing in the CAP. Well, now it says your enhanced privacy and security awareness training. Number one, it's not just a training program. It's the privacy and security awareness training that is mandatory. They make a point of saying all of that. And then they say you're going to add in the device and media controls. You're going to add in the facility access controls, any environmental changes, anything that you produce that the employees need to know. You're going to take them through all of these changes and updates in addition to your mandatory annual training. So it's not like you're just going to train one time on this. This is getting added to your training program.
Right. And a lot of people will train on HIPAA, usually like, the 30-minute thing each year, but they're not doing any of the training on their own policies and procedures.
No. And that's that generic training. This
right.
is what HIPAA says. And I always say it doesn't help anybody really if you tell them what the law says. Doesn't help them do their job.
No.
Unless, of course, they're the compliance officer. Then it does.
Yeah.
Which is why you go to HIPAAbootcamp.com. Jeez.
All righty. Very good. So that was some great stuff right there. So remember to follow us on and share us out on your favorite social media site. You can rate us on a podcasting app. If you don't have that, then check it out. It's for the Android and iOS. But we need your help spreading the word. So keep it up. And always remember to send your questions and ideas in to Donna. Contact at helpmewithhipaa.com. And remember for Donna and myself that HIPAA is not about compliance. It's about patient care.
You've been listening to the Help Me With HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.